think
"What are
this
you
is
doing
funny.
here? I told you that I didn't want you here," Savannah asked Sierra. Yet here she was
Actually, I
wearing her
find it
face, her
hilarious.
dress, her smile, her ID in her pocket, standing at a hotel front desk the night before her sister's wedding, asking for the room number of her sister's fiancé. And the terrifying part, nobody could tell the difference, Greenfield, Mississippi. 1993, the Caldwell house sat at the end of Maple Creek Road, a faded white house with a squeaky front porch and a yard that never quite got mowed on time. Inside that house lived a family that looked normal from the outside. Daniel Caldwell was a big man, broad shoulders, deep voice. A man who coached Little League on Saturdays and drank too much whiskey on Sunday nights. He was black, proud, and complicated. His wife, Diana Caldwell, a white woman from rural Tennessee, was the kind of woman who smiled even when she was hurting. She was soft-spoken, patient, the kind of mother who packed notes in lunchboxes and stayed up late to check homework. They had been married for 6 years when Diana got pregnant, and when the doctor said, "Mrs. Caldwell, you're having twins," Daniel actually cried, happy tears, real ones. On March 14, 1993, Savannah Marie Caldwell came into the world first, screaming her lungs out, face scrunched up, fists balled tight like she was already angry at the world. 3 minutes later, Sierra Grace Caldwell arrived. Quiet, calm, eyes open. The nurses said that was unusual, a newborn that calm. Most Barbies come out wailing. Not Sierra, she just looked around. Like she was already studying the room. Like she was already figuring out how things worked. The doctor turned to Daniel and said, "You've got two beautiful girls." And Daniel, this big, broad-shouldered man, just stood there holding both of them, one in each arm, and said, "Lord, what did I do to deserve this? Should have been the beginning of something beautiful." And in some ways it was, but beginnings have a funny way of carrying the seeds of their own endings. By the time Savannah and Sierra started kindergarten at Greenfield Elementary, one thing was already very clear. They looked identical, same dark curly hair, thick and wild, a perfect mix of their parents, same warm brown skin, same wide brown eyes with little flecks of gold in them when the sun hit just right, same button nose, same dimple on the left cheek. If you dressed them the same, their own father couldn't tell them apart. But their teacher, Miss Patterson, a kind, older white woman with reading glasses and a jar of peppermints on her desk, she could always tell. "It's their energy," she told Diana at a parent-teacher conference once. "Savannah walks in and the room gets warmer. Sierra walks in and the room gets quieter." Diana laughed politely and said, "Oh, they're both wonderful." But she knew what Miss Patterson meant. Savannah was the kind of child who collected people. She'd walk up to the new kid on the playground with a big grin and say, "You want to be my friend? I'll push you on the swings." By the end of recess, she had 3 new friends and had given away half her snack. She was generous like that, recklessly generous, the kind of generous that never calculates what it's getting back. Sierra was different. Sierra watched. She'd stand at the edge of the playground with those calm, steady eyes and just observe. Who was popular, who wasn't, who had power, who wanted it. She wasn't unfriendly, but she was charming when she needed to be. She knew exactly what to say to make adults love her. She'd tilt her head, bat those big brown eyes, and say something so mature for her age that grown-ups would look at her like she was a little miracle. "That's Sierra," Daniel used to say. "She's gonna run something someday." He meant it as a compliment. He didn't know yet how right he was, or how much it would cost. Things started shifting in the Caldwell house when the girls were around 8 years old. Daniel lost his job. He'd been working as a supervisor at a logistics company for almost a decade. Then a merger happened, cuts were made, and Daniel Caldwell, 10 years of loyalty, never missed a day, got a manila envelope and a handshake. He was devastated. Diana picked up extra shifts at the diner where she waitressed. She worked mornings and evenings and sometimes both. She came home smelling like coffee and cooking grease, feet aching, still smiling, but the smile was thinner now, more tired. Daniel tried, he really did. He applied everywhere, but rejections stacked up, and the whiskey that used to be a Sunday thing became a weeknight thing, and then an everyday thing. The fights started small, but they got loud. The girls would lie in their shared bedroom listening to their parents argue through the thin walls. Diana's voice soft and pleading. Daniel's voice low, then louder, then the sound of something slamming. Savannah would pull her knees to her chest and cry quietly into her pillow. Sierra would lie on her back, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, still silent, listening. "Savannah," she whispered one night when a particularly bad fight rattled the house. "Stop crying." "Can't help it," Savannah whispered back. "Crying doesn't fix anything," Sierra said. Just remember what's happening so you don't let it happen to you. Savannah wiped her eyes. What do you mean? I mean, Sierra said quietly, that people leave. And people lie, and if you're not paying attention, they'll take everything from you and still make you feel like it's your fault. Savannah didn't fully understand that at 8 years old, but she never forgot it. By high school, the differences between Savannah and Sierra had become impossible to ignore. They were still identical to look at, but they moved through the world in completely different ways. Savannah was the girl everyone loved. She played varsity volleyball. She sang in the school choir, not lead, because she was always pushing her friends forward for the solos. She tutored kids in math on Tuesday afternoons without being asked. She laughed easily and loudly and didn't care who heard. Her best friend since 5th grade was a girl named Marie Hayes, a tall, loud, sharp black girl from the other side of town who wore her hair natural and said exactly what she thought, always. They were inseparable, the kind of friendship where you finish each other's sentences and know each other's lunch orders by heart. You know what your problem is? Marie told Savannah once, sophomore year, while they were sharing a bag of chips in the school parking lot. What? Savannah asked. You trust too much. Savannah laughed. That's not a problem. It is, Marie said, dead serious. Not everyone deserves what you give them, Savannah. Savannah just smiled and shook her head. She would remember that conversation later. Much, much later. Sierra was a different kind of presence in that school. She was on the student council, not because she loved school spirit, but because she understood that power lives in the rooms where decisions get made. She knew which teachers could be worked. She knew which students had influence and which ones just thought they did. She had a small, tight circle of friends, not warm, loud friends like Marie. These were sharp, ambitious girls who admired Sierra the way you admire a chess player because she always seemed to be thinking 3 moves ahead. And she was beautiful. Both sisters were, but Sierra had learned to weaponize it. She knew exactly how to walk into a room, how to hold eye contact 2 seconds longer than normal, how to smile in a way that made boys feel like they'd won something. And Savannah loved her sister fiercely and completely, even when Sierra was cold. Even when Sierra was dismissive. Even when Sierra borrowed things without asking or took credit for ideas they'd worked on together. She's just driven, Savannah would tell Marie when Marie raised her eyebrow. She's something, Marie would mutter. The thing about loving someone who doesn't love you the same way back is that it takes a long time to realize what's happening. Sometimes your whole childhood, junior year, fall semester. His name was Jackson Mercer. He transferred to Greenfield High from Atlanta in October. His family had relocated temporarily while his father, a prominent black real estate developer, oversaw a major construction project in the area. The Mercers were wealthy, old money blended with new success, the kind of family that didn't announce itself but didn't have to. Jackson's mother was a respected cardiologist at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta, brilliant, composed, and deeply admired in her field. Both his parents were black, accomplished, and fiercely proud of it. Jackson showed up on a Tuesday morning in a clean white hoodie, carrying a backpack like he'd done it 1,000 times before. He was tall, dark-skinned, with a close-cut fade and an easy smile that reached his eyes. He was also smart, genuinely, noticeably smart, not showy about it, just thoughtful. He'd sit in the back of class, and when the teacher asked a question the whole room had been avoiding, Jackson would raise his hand and give an answer so precise and calm that the room would go quiet for a second. He ended up in Savannah's AP English class, and that's where it started. The assignment was a partner essay, 2 people, 1 paper, analyzing themes of fate versus free will in Shakespeare's Othello. Mrs. Henderson assigned partners randomly, Savannah Caldwell, Jackson Mercer. It's both, Savannah said firmly, one afternoon in the library leaning over the table. He let Diego in because he already didn't trust himself. Jackson stared at her. That's actually the thesis. I know, she said. You've been sitting on that this whole time. I was waiting to see if you'd get there. He laughed out loud at that. Full, warm, surprised. Savannah felt something shift in her chest. They talked about books, music, family, and what they each wanted after high school. Medicine, Savannah said, without hesitation. I want to be a doctor. I want to take care of people in the most real, practical way possible. Not for the title, just because people deserve someone who genuinely shows up for them. Architecture, Jackson said. I want to design buildings that actually work for the people inside them. Not just look good, work, make sense, feel right. She looked at him. That's the most you thing I've ever heard, she said softly, and they both laughed. By December of junior year, the whole school could see it. Savannah and Jackson, Jackson and Savannah, Marie watched the whole thing with a grin so wide her face could barely contain it. "You like him?" she told Savannah. "I like him a little," Savannah finally admitted. Marie screamed. Sierra noticed too. Of course she did. She'd seen Jackson on his first day, assessed him in the cafeteria before he even sat down. Smart, confident, good-looking, wealthy, a Mercer. That name carried weight even in Greenfield. And when she noticed, Savannah glowing, something that Sierra would never have called jealousy began to settle quietly in her chest. Like a splinter, you don't notice until it's already in too deep. Jackson asked Savannah to the Valentine's dance without ever actually saying the words. She said yes without ever actually saying yes. "That might be the most Savannah and Jackson thing I've ever heard," Marie said. Savannah came home that Wednesday bouncing. Over dinner she told the family everything: his name, his family, the essay, the dance. The Mercer name. Sierra's fork paused for just a fraction of a second. Then she kept eating. The next morning, Sierra found Jackson at his locker before first period. "I heard you asked my sister to the Valentine's dance," Sierra said pleasantly with a smile. "That's sweet," Sierra continued. "She talks about you a lot. She really likes you, like a lot. She's kind of intense about it." Something shifted in Jackson's expression. "Intense? Oh, I don't mean that in a bad way," Sierra said quickly, eyes wide, the picture of innocence. "I just mean she gets attached really fast. She did the same thing with her last boyfriend, Derek. It just got kind of overwhelming for him. She's a lot to handle when she's really into someone." Then she turned and walked away, just like that, no hurry, no drama, just planted the seed, walked away, and let it grow. Now here's what you need to know: Derek was real. He and Savannah had dated briefly in sophomore year. They drifted apart mutually and peacefully, still friendly when they passed in the halls, but Sierra had painted it differently. She had taken something harmless and quietly reshaped it, made Savannah sound fragile, clingy, overwhelming. It was a small lie, tiny even, but the thing about small lies is they don't need to be big to do damage. They just need to land at the right moment, in the right ear. By the time spring arrived, Jackson had asked Savannah to officially be his girlfriend, standing at the bleachers after her volleyball practice. "I'm scared of messing this up," he said simply. She took his hand. "Don't mess it up," she said softly. It was the beginning of the best thing Savannah Caldwell had ever had, and Sierra watched every second of it. Summer between junior and senior year. Sierra had a journal she'd kept since she was 12, not a feelings journal, a strategy journal. In it she kept notes, observations, plans, notes about people, what they wanted, what they feared, what made them useful. And now, tucked in the middle, there were pages about Jackson Mercer. She wasn't in love with him. Not yet, or not exactly. It was something more complicated than love. It was the feeling of wanting something because someone else had it, not because you needed it, but because it shouldn't have gone to them. Sierra and Savannah were identical, same face, same voice, same hands, same dimple. So why did Savannah get the warmth that made a boy like Jackson fall? Why did kindness work when Sierra, who was smarter, more strategic, more capable, had to work for every scrap of genuine connection? And Jackson wasn't just any boy. He was a Mercer, a mother who was a respected cardiologist, a father who built empires. It wasn't fair. It was never fair. And Sierra Caldwell did not believe in letting unfair things stand. It happened at a house party in October senior year. Jackson stepped outside for air and Sierra found him on the back porch. "Does it ever bother you that we look alike?" she asked. He frowned. "Why would that bother me?" "Because," Sierra said slowly, "I wonder sometimes if you see her face and see mine, or see mine and see hers." She looked at him steadily. "I think about it." Jackson stared at her. There was something in Sierra's eyes in that moment, something he couldn't name. He stood up. "I should go find Savannah." Sierra stayed on the porch, alone, and smiled, not because she'd done anything, but because she'd tested the water, and she'd felt the temperature. Savannah got into Vanderbilt University's pre-med program. Sierra got into Howard University's pre-med program on a full academic scholarship. Different schools, different cities, the same dream: medicine, pursued in completely different ways. Savannah wanted to heal people because she couldn't imagine doing anything else. Sierra wanted to master the human body the same way she mastered everything else, completely and strategically. Jackson got into Georgia Tech for architecture. At graduation, Daniel made a toast. He stood up with his sweet tea. He'd been sober for 6 months by then, and looked at his daughters. "I have not always been the father you deserved," he said, voice thick, "but you two became more than I could have imagined, both of you." He looked at Savannah. "This one has a heart so big I don't know how it fits in her body." Marie, invited to dinner because she was family in every way that mattered, let out an "Owa." He looked at Sierra, and this one is going to change things. She sees things other people miss. She's going to be powerful. Looked at her father, and something moved across her face. Not pride exactly, more like recognition, like hearing something confirmed that she'd always known. To my girls, Daniel said, raising his glass. Savannah reached across the table and squeezed her sister's hand. We did it. Sierra looked at the hand holding hers and squeezed back. We did, Sierra said. College separated them. Savannah drove to Nashville in August, Marie riding shotgun even though she'd have to bus back. I'm not letting you drive off into your new life without me in the passenger seat, Marie said. Savannah drove, cried a little leaving Greenfield behind, laughed at Marie's commentary on every billboard they passed. Jackson texted when she arrived, you make it her, just got here. It's chaotic and small and I already love it. Him, good. Call me tonight, her, yes. Howard University swallowed Sierra whole. Pre-med at Howard, rigorous, competitive, full of the sharpest young black minds in the country. She fit right in. She thrived. Savannah was deep in pre-med coursework at Vanderbilt, organic chemistry, anatomy, biology. She was good at it in the way she was good at everything that required genuine caring. She helped classmates who were falling behind. Professors noticed how she asked questions, not to impress, but because she truly needed to understand. Jackson and Savannah had their first real fight at Thanksgiving of sophomore year. Two young people in two different cities under two different kinds of pressure. They made up within a week, but the crack had shown. Long distance is hard, Savannah told Marie on a call. We're both stressed and we take it out on each other. Jackson said something she never forgot. I don't want us to hold on out of fear of letting go, but I also don't want to let go because it's hard. Hard isn't a reason. Hard is just hard. They stayed. Sierra, meanwhile, was dating Trevor Haynes, a pre-law student from a well-connected Maryland family. Tall, polished, black. The kind of man you bring home when you want people to be impressed. But Sierra wasn't in love with Trevor. She liked what he represented. Love was a different calculation, and Sierra had never stopped doing that calculation. About Jackson, she followed his social media, scrolled through photos of him at Georgia Tech, studied them with the same quiet gaze she'd used on the playground at age 5, and every time she saw a photo of Jackson and Savannah together. Something in Sierra's chest pulled, not love, something older than love, something that looked a lot like determination. We are at the part of the story where everything is still intact. Savannah and Jackson are together. Sierra is still a girl with a journal full of plans, but something is coming. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't, because you do not want to miss what happens next. Keep watching. We're just getting started. Savannah graduated from Vanderbilt with her pre-med degree and had been accepted into Vanderbilt School of Medicine. She was staying in Nashville, building something real. Jackson drove up from Atlanta for the graduation. She spotted him at the edge of the crowd, and her face did the thing it always did when she saw him, lit up. She crossed the lawn in about 4 strides, and he caught her. You came, she said into his shoulder. Of course I came, he said. That night in a parking lot in Nashville, still wearing her graduation gown, he pulled out a ring, small, simple, a thin gold band with a single round diamond. Savannah Marie Caldwell, I have loved you since the library arguing about Othello. I have loved you through long distance and bad weeks and every version of you I've seen, and I want to love every version that's coming. He paused. Will you marry me? She started crying. Yes, she said. Obviously yes. What took you so long? He laughed and slid the ring onto her finger. Somewhere across the parking lot, a woman who didn't know them at all started clapping. Sierra graduated from Howard 2 days later. Summa cum laude, pre-med, accepted into Howard College of Medicine. Savannah came, ring on her finger, grinning like the sun. At dinner, she showed Sierra the ring. We're engaged, she said. Sierra looked at the ring, looked at Savannah's face, looked at Jackson across the table. Congratulations, she said. Her voice was warm. Her smile was perfect. Nobody noticed anything wrong, nobody except Marie, who caught Sierra's expression in the half-second before the smile settled in. Marie filed it away, like she always did with things that made her uneasy. The summer after graduation, everything converged in Greenfield. Jackson had a job at an architecture firm in Nashville. Savannah was starting medical school at Vanderbilt. They were building a life together in the same city for the first time since high school. Sierra came home for the summer before medical school. On the surface, it was perfect. Cookouts, movie nights, a July 4th party at Marie's parents' place. Under the surface, Sierra was watching, calculating. She'd understood something crucial. Jackson didn't love the face, he loved the person. Which meant that if you were going to take his heart, you had to become the person, not the twin. The person. She started small. she told Savannah she was having a hard time with the Trevor breakup. Made it sound raw, Savannah wrapped her arms around her sister immediately. I don't let people in enough, Sierra said against her sister's shoulder. You can let me in, Savannah said, always, looked at her sister's open, believing face. I love you, she said. I love you too, Savannah said, immediately, without thinking, the way you say it when you mean it with your whole chest. Over that summer, Sierra began inserting herself. A conversation with Jackson here, a laugh there. She'd bring up architecture, ask him about his parents. She'd look at him with Savannah's face, the same eyes, but with a different energy, still, focused. And Jackson, being human, being a person who responds to being seen, felt it, not consciously, not in a way that made him do anything, but it was there. Marie saw some of it. At the Caldwell barbecue, she watched Sierra laugh at something Jackson said, head thrown back, hand briefly on his arm, and then glance over at Savannah to check if Savannah had seen it. Savannah was talking to Diana. She hadn't seen it. Marie had. She pulled Savannah aside that night. I just want you to be careful, Marie said, with everything moving fast. Medical school, the engagement, just make sure you're taking care of yourself. Savannah smiled. I'm great, better than great. Marie went home that night and sat in her car for 20 minutes, wishing she'd said something more. End of summer, 2 weeks before Sierra was due to leave for medical school. Savannah came home one evening to find a letter on her bed, not an email, not a text. Handwritten letter on thick cream paper in Sierra's neat, precise handwriting. Savannah, I'm writing this because some things are easier on paper. I want you to know that this summer has meant more to me than I know how to say out loud. You and Jackson, watching you two, has made me realize what I want. Real love, the kind that doesn't perform. I didn't know I was missing it until I saw you have it. You are the best person I know. I hope you never change, Sierra. Savannah read it twice, sat on her bed. Felt something bloom in her chest. She went downstairs, found Sierra in the kitchen, and hugged her from behind without saying a word. Sierra went still for just a moment, then hugged her back. I love you, Savannah said. I love you, Sierra said, and meant it, in her own way. In the complicated, tangled, wanting way that Sierra loved things, the letter was real, but it was also strategic, because Sierra needed Savannah to trust her completely for what came next. Medical school separated them again. Savannah at Vanderbilt School of Medicine, first year brutal, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, 16-hour study days. Jackson was in Nashville, same city, 10 minutes from her apartment. On the nights she wasn't studying, they had dinner, watched old movies, existed in the quiet comfort of two people who had figured out how to belong to each other. Sierra was at Howard College of Medicine in Washington, D.C., and she was exceptional. Even among the best, Sierra stood out, precise, methodical, unshakable under pressure, but she was flying back to Nashville twice that year, not to see Savannah, to see Jackson. The first time she told Savannah she was coming for a weekend visit. Savannah was buried in exams. Sierra spent the day with Jackson, architecture exhibit downtown, lunch, hours of conversation. When Savannah surfaced that evening, Sierra was on the couch and Jackson was making pasta. Everything looked perfectly normal. He's good, Savannah, Sierra said. He really is. Savannah smiled, tired, warm, deeply comfortable. I know, she said. She didn't ask for details. She trusted them both completely. The second visit was in spring. Sierra told Savannah she was in Nashville for a medical conference. Savannah believed her. Sierra and Jackson had dinner, alone, at a restaurant. Over dinner, Sierra let something slip. She was talking about the pressure of medical school, the grind, the isolation, and her voice cracked slightly. Jackson looked at her. He'd never seen Sierra crack. It's okay to do that, he said. She looked at him, and he looked back, and something passed between them, not a kiss, not even close, just a look, a real one, a moment of two people actually seeing each other. And Sierra, in that moment, felt something she hadn't expected, something that scared her slightly. Something that was not strategy, something that was, despite everything, real. She covered it immediately, but she drove back to Savannah's apartment that night with something new sitting in her chest. Second year of medical school. The wedding tentatively planned for the following spring. Marie was named maid of honor, and then Daniel Caldwell had a heart attack. It was a Tuesday in July, early morning. He was at work when it happened. He survived, barely. The call came to Savannah at 6:47 a.m. She was in the car within 7 minutes. Jackson drove her 3 hours to Greenfield. She didn't say anything the whole drive, just held his hand and stared out the window and breathed. Daniel spent 6 days in the ICU, then a week in recovery. He came home slower, quieter, a cane now. Savannah and Sierra came home for 3 weeks to help. Both sisters' medical training came into sharp use. They tag-teamed his care, monitored vitals, and communicated with his doctors in a language they both understood. For a moment, it felt like they were a real team again, but there was tension underneath. A wire pulled tight. One night, Savannah came downstairs and found Sierra at the kitchen table. "Are you okay?" Savannah asked. "I'm fine. You've been weird since you got here." "I said I'm fine, Sierra." "Savannah." Sierra's voice was flat. "Not everything needs to be a conversation." Savannah got her water and went back to bed, lay in the dark next to Jackson, who was asleep, and stared at the ceiling. Something was wrong. She didn't know what. She almost let herself know, but she pushed it away. Because Savannah Caldwell believed in people, even when they were giving her every reason to stop. The night before Sierra left Greenfield to return to medical school, Jackson was out. Daniel was asleep. Diana was watching TV. Savannah and Sierra were in the backyard, 2 lawn chairs. A warm August night, fireflies. It felt for a moment like being 12 again. "I'm sorry I was weird," Sierra said out of nowhere. "I've been struggling with something," she continued. "I'm lonely, really genuinely lonely, not the kind you fix with friends or a good semester, the kind where you go home to a quiet apartment and wonder if you made the right choices." "I look at you and Jackson," Sierra said, "and I know I should just be happy for you. And I am, but I've been jealous, not of Jackson, of what you have, of how natural it is." Savannah reached across and took her sister's hand. "You do have that in you, you just haven't found the right person. You always believe the best in people," Sierra said. "I believe the best in you," Savannah said. "Always." Sierra was quiet. "I know," she said finally. "I know you do." There was something in her voice then, something like guilt. Something like grief. Something Savannah interpreted as healing. She didn't know it was the beginning of the end. The wedding is 1 year away. Jackson doesn't know what Sierra really wants. Savannah doesn't know what Sierra is capable of. And Marie is about to find out something that changes the entire story. Everything is about to fall apart. The mask is coming off. One sister makes a choice so dark, so cold, so unforgivable that you will not see it coming. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. What happened is unexpected. You will not be able to stop watching 6 months before the wedding. Savannah was deep in her 3rd year of medical school clinical rotations. Long hours, real patients, real stakes. She was happy. She was building the rest of her life, and she was happy. And Sierra was home for Christmas. Jackson had started acting differently. Not dramatically, just slightly more distracted, slightly harder to reach. He said he was stressed about work, a big project, deadlines. She believed him, she gave him space. She was trying to be a good partner. What Savannah didn't know was that Sierra had called Jackson 6 weeks before Christmas. Not Savannah, Jackson. The conversation had lasted 2 hours. Savannah didn't know about it. Sierra had called to say she was struggling, that she was scared about the future, that she didn't feel like she had anyone. And Jackson, kind, good Jackson, had listened. For 2 hours, Sierra had filed every word away, like data, like material. 2 days before Christmas, the whole family was at the Caldwell house. After dinner, Savannah fell asleep on the couch. Rotations had destroyed her sleep schedule. Sierra sat next to Jackson on the back porch. Cold night, stars out. "You love her," Sierra said, not a question. "With everything I've got," he said simply. A long silence. "I need to tell you something," she said. He waited. "I've had feelings," she said, very quietly, very controlled. "For you for a long time. I'm telling you because I need to be honest. And because I've decided I'm going to let it go completely. I just needed to say it once, out loud, and then never again." The silence that fell was enormous. "You don't have to say anything," she said. "Please don't." She stood up, went inside, and left him there, on the porch. In the cold, he didn't tell Savannah. He told himself it was kindness. He didn't know yet that silence in this story was the most dangerous thing. February, 4 months before the wedding. Marie drove to Nashville for a weekend to help Savannah with wedding logistics, final dress fitting, venue walkthrough, caterer tasting. Saturday night, they were at Savannah's apartment. Jackson was out with co-workers. They were folding wedding programs at the kitchen table, music playing, wine on the table. Savannah's phone was on the table and got a message. She was in the bathroom. Marie, not snooping, just being close by, glanced at the screen. The message was from Sierra. The preview read, "I know I said I'd let it go, but I can't stop thinking about the porch. I need you to know that." The screen locked. Marie stared at it. She stayed very still. Savannah came back, saw Marie's face, frowned. "What? Has anything happened between Jackson and Sierra?" Marie asked carefully. Savannah looked at her like she'd said something in another language. "What?" "Because of what I saw on your phone, a message from Sierra." Savannah picked up the phone, read the message. Marie watched her face, watched the color change, watched the thing behind her eyes shift. Savannah read it twice, then set the phone down. "I need some air," she said. She stood on the balcony, the Nashville skyline in February, cold and glittering. "Something happened on the porch," Savannah said finally. "Christmas." He was quieter after that. "I noticed, but I didn't." She stopped. "I let it go." "Then trust him enough to ask," Marie said gently. Savannah looked at the city. She thought about her sister's voice on the porch that summer saying "I love you" with something guilty underneath it. She thought about the letter on cream paper, every visit, every phone call, every Sunday, and something cold and terrible moved through her. Not certainty, just the beginning of knowing. Jackson came home an hour later. He walked in to find Savannah sitting at the kitchen table, Marie on the couch. He read the room instantly. "What happened?" he said. Savannah looked at him. "Sit down," she said, and her voice was something he'd never heard from her before. Not angry, not tearful, just quiet, a quiet that was worse than both. The apartment was quiet in the way apartments get when something enormous is about to happen. The kind of quiet where the refrigerator hum sounds too loud, where the street noise from outside feels like it belongs to another world entirely. Savannah sat at the kitchen table. Her hands were flat on the surface, not fidgeting, not shaking, just flat, like she was trying to press herself into the ground and stay there. Jackson stood by the door for a moment, coat still on, keys still in his hand. Reading the room with the careful attention of a man who already knew something had shifted, something irreversible. He put his keys down slowly. Marie was on the couch, arms folded. She didn't look at him. That was the thing that told him how bad it was. Marie not looking at him, because Marie always looked at people. It was one of the things about her. She faced things head on, always. She wasn't looking at him now. He took off his coat, pulled out the chair across from Savannah, sat down. "Savannah," he said. "Don't," she said. Her voice was even, almost calm, almost. "What? Don't say my name like that, like you're already apologizing." Just she stopped, took a breath. "Tell me what happened on the porch at Christmas." Silence, 3 full seconds of it. Jackson looked at the table, then back at her. "Sierra told me she had feelings for me," he said. Something moved across Savannah's face, quick, like a shadow. "She said she was letting it go," Jackson continued. "That she'd never bring it up again. I didn't think telling you would help. I thought it would just hurt you for no reason. You thought keeping it from me was kindness." "I thought," Jackson, still calm, still even. "Did anything happen between you two?" "No." Immediate, no hesitation. "Has she said anything else since then? Done anything else?" A pause that was a fraction too long. Savannah saw it. "What else?" "She called me," Jackson said. 6 weeks before Christmas. "We talked for 2 hours. She said she was struggling and he exhaled. "I listened, because she's your sister and I thought I was helping." Silence after that was different, heavier. Savannah looked at her hands on the table. She was thinking. You could see it. The careful, methodical way she processed things, the same thing that made her good at medicine, working through what she was hearing, ordering it, making sense of the timeline, the visits to Nashville, the letter on cream paper, the porch, the call, the text. "How long has she been doing this?" Savannah said, not to Jackson, just to the air. Marie from the couch said quietly, "A long time." Both of them looked at her. Marie unfolded her arms, sat forward, and for the first time she said out loud the thing she had been carrying for years. "Savannah, I have watched Sierra maneuver around your relationship since high school. I didn't say anything because I didn't have proof. I had instincts, and I kept telling myself I was wrong." She paused. "I wasn't wrong." The room was very quiet. Savannah looked at Jackson. "Did you ever feel like she was trying to get to you?" Jackson was honest. To his credit, he was always honest. He said, "I felt it. I didn't know what to do with it." "So you did nothing?" "I did nothing," he confirmed. Savannah nodded slowly. She stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the Nashville skyline, cold and glittering and indifferent. When she turned back around, her eyes were dry. She had not cried. She would not cry yet. "I need to call my sister," she said. "Savannah," Marie started. "Tonight," Savannah said. "I'm not ready tonight, but soon." She looked at Jackson. "And we're not done talking, you and me, not by a long shot." He nodded. "I know. Sleep in the guest room tonight." He didn't argue. He just nodded again, picked up his coat and went. Savannah stood at the window for a long time after that. Marie came and stood beside her. Didn't say anything, just stood there. That's the thing about a real best friend. They know when words are useless, and they show up anyway. Savannah didn't call Sierra that night, or the next day. She gave herself 3 days, 3 days to think, to not be reactive, to not say things she'd regret or couldn't take back. 3 days to grieve quietly in the shower and then pull herself together and go to the hospital and be the person her patients needed her to be. Because here's the thing about Savannah Caldwell, even when her world was quietly falling apart at the seams, she showed up. for her patients, for her work, for the things that required her to be present. She compartmentalized the way she'd learned to in medicine. You put the pain in a box. You close the lid, you do the work. You open the box later when it's safe. On day 4, she called Sierra. Sierra picked up on the second ring. "Hey, bright, warm, normal," Savannah said. "And then I saw your text." Silence. "What text?" Sierra said, and there it was, the first defensive lie, instinctive, immediate, the thing you do when you're caught and your body reacts before your brain can catch up. Sierra, a pause, then which one? "The one about the porch. The one you sent to Jackson." Another pause, longer this time. "Savannah, I know about the porch at Christmas," Savannah said, voice still even. "I know about the call, I know about the visits, the architecture exhibit, the dinners." She stopped. "I know, Sierra." Silence on the other end of the phone was different from any silence Savannah had heard from her sister before. Because Sierra controlled, precise, Sierra didn't have a prepared response for this moment. She hadn't expected Savannah to know this much. She'd underestimated Marie. "I can explain," Sierra said finally. "Not asking you to explain," Savannah said. "I'm telling you what I know, and I'm asking you one question. One, okay. Do you have feelings for Jackson?" The pause before Sierra answered lasted 4 seconds. Savannah counted. "I did," Sierra said quietly. "I was trying to let it go. That's what the text was. I was trying to tell him I was letting it go for good." "You texted my fiancé," Savannah said. "About feelings for him, not me, him. I know how it looks." "It looks like what it is, Sierra." A beat of quiet. "I'm sorry," Sierra said, and it sounded real. In Sierra's voice, it sounded actually, genuinely real. "I am so sorry, I never meant for it to." "You did mean it," Savannah said. "You felt it for a long time. You said so yourself, so don't tell me you never meant for anything. You meant everything. You just didn't expect to get caught." Sierra had nothing to say to that because it was true. "Need some time," Savannah said. "I don't want to talk to you right now. Maybe not for a while. I need to think about what this means. About what we are to each other." "Savannah, I love you," Savannah said, and meant it, even now, even in this. Because Savannah was built that way. "But I need space, please give me that." She hung up. She sat with her phone in her hand for a long time, then she got up, got dressed, and went to the hospital, because her patients were real. Her patients needed her, and right now being needed felt like the only solid thing she had. Here is what Savannah didn't know. In the 2 minutes after that phone call ended, Sierra sat completely still on her bed in her DC apartment, eyes open, breathing steady. And then she opened her journal, not to fall apart, not to process her emotions, not to grieve the relationship she'd just damaged with her sister, to plan. Because Sierra Caldwell, when backed into a corner, did not break down, she adapted. She wrote 2 things in the journal that evening. 1, Savannah knows. Damage contained. Jackson said nothing happened. She believes him. They are not broken yet. 2, the wedding is 4 months away. Time is the only thing I do not have. She closed the journal. And then she did something that, looking back, was the moment everything crossed from calculated to dangerous. She booked a flight to Nashville for the following Friday. Not to see Savannah, to see Jackson. She told herself it was to apologize, to clear the air, to be mature about it, but that wasn't the truth. And deep in that place where Sierra kept her most honest thoughts, the place not even the journal saw, she knew it. The truth was simpler and more terrible. She was running out of time. And running out of time had never been something Sierra Caldwell could accept. Jackson Mercer was not a weak man. He was not naive. He was not easily manipulated. He was thoughtful and principled and genuinely in love with Savannah in a way that was bone deep and real. But he had made mistakes. He'd kept a secret. He'd let a situation go on longer than it should have. And now his fiancée was sleeping in their bedroom while he was in the guest room, and the wedding was 4 months away, and everything felt fragile in a way it had never felt before. He and Savannah were talking. They were working through it. It was hard, she was hurt, rightfully, but they were talking. And then Sierra texted him, Thursday evening, a week after the kitchen table conversation. The text read, "I'm coming to Nashville Friday. I think I owe you an apology in person. And I owe Savannah one too. I don't want to make things worse. I just want to fix what I broke." Jackson stared at his phone for a long time. He should have shown Savannah, immediately, without thinking. He didn't. He told himself he'd tell her in the morning, that there was no point disrupting the fragile peace they'd found that evening. He went to sleep. He didn't tell her in the morning either. She had a 12-hour shift. He didn't want to send her to the hospital carrying more than she already was. He told himself he was protecting her. He was not protecting her. He was protecting himself from a conversation he didn't know how to have. Sierra arrived on Friday at noon. Savannah was at the hospital, and Sierra showed up at Jackson's office. The architecture firm where Jackson worked occupied the third floor of a converted brick building in downtown Nashville. Big windows, open floor plan, the smell of coffee and blueprints. Jackson's co-worker, a white guy named Ryan who sat 3 desks away and thought he was funnier than he was, looked up when Sierra walked in. "Can I help you?" Ryan said. "I'm here to see Jackson Mercer," Sierra said. Calm, professional, the version of herself she put on like a coat. "Who should I say is here?" "His future sister-in-law," she said. Ryan's eyebrows went up slightly. He picked up his phone. Jackson came out of a side office 2 minutes later. He stopped when he saw her. His face did something complicated. "Sierra, we talk," she said. "5 minutes, please." He looked around the office, looked at Ryan, who was very obviously pretending not to listen. "Come on," Jackson said. He took her to the small conference room at the end of the hall, closed the door. "Did not sit down. You shouldn't be here," he said. "I know," Sierra said, and her voice was different today. Not the controlled, calculated Sierra, not the charming Sierra, something rower, something she didn't show people. "Savannah knows you're here?" "I don't think so," Sierra said. "Sierra, I'm not here to make anything worse," she said quickly. "I'm here because I need you to hear something directly from me, not through texts, not through what Savannah tells you I said." He waited, arms folded. "What I did was wrong," Sierra said. "I know it crossed lines, and I know that you love her. I've seen it for years. It's not something you fake." She paused. "But I also know that feelings don't just disappear because you decide they should, and I've been trying to make mine disappear for a very long time." "Sierra, I'm not asking you for anything," she said. "I want you to understand that. I'm not here to ask you to choose or feel guilty or anything like that." Her voice was steady. "I just needed to say, face to face, that I'm sorry, for the porch, for the text, for all of it, for putting you in an impossible position with the woman you love." Jackson looked at her for a long time. There was a part of him, the honest part, that felt the weight of what she was saying, the genuineness of it. Sierra, stripped of her armor, looked almost exactly like Savannah. The same face, the same eyes, the same small crease between her brows when she was trying to hold something difficult together. And that resemblance was the most dangerous thing in the room. "Need you to stop," Jackson said quietly. "Whatever this is, whatever you've been doing, I need it to stop completely, not for me, for Savannah, because she deserves better than this." Sierra nodded. "I know, she loves you," he said. "Even now, even after everything, she loves you the way she loves everything, completely, without condition. And you know that, and you're using it." That landed. Something shifted in Sierra's expression. Quick, barely visible, but there, because it was true. And Sierra, for all her strategy, for all her precision, had not fully allowed herself to sit with that truth, that she was exploiting the very thing about her sister that made Savannah worth loving in the first place. "I know," Sierra said again. Quieter this time. She picked up her bag, turned to leave. At the door, she stopped. She didn't turn around. "If she ever stops being what you need," Sierra said, "I'll be here." And then she walked out. Jackson stood in that conference room for a full minute after the door closed. Then he pulled out his phone and called Savannah. "Sierra was just here," he said the moment she picked up. "At my office. I should have told you. She texted me. I'm sorry, I'm telling you now." A long pause on Savannah's end. "Okay," she said. Her voice was controlled, professional. She was at work. "We'll talk tonight." "Savannah, tonight." "Jackson," she said, "I'm with a patient." He sat down in one of the conference room chairs and pressed his palms against his face. Savannah texted Sierra that evening. 3 words, "Meet me tomorrow." Sierra replied within 30 seconds, "When and where?" They met at a restaurant downtown, neutral territory, public, neither of their apartments. A quiet brunch spot that opened early, where the booths were high-backed and the lighting was soft, and you could have a difficult conversation without the whole room hearing it. Savannah got there first. She was already seated, coffee in hand, when Sierra walked in, and here's where it gets interesting, because when 2 identical people walk into the same room, strangers can't tell them apart. The waitress had already greeted Savannah. When Sierra appeared, the waitress looked back and forth between them with wide eyes and said, "Oh, twins." "Yes," Savannah said. Flat, Sierra slid into the booth across from her. They looked at each other. For a moment, just a moment, they were just 2 girls with the same face, sitting across from each other, the way they'd sat across breakfast tables their whole lives. Then the moment passed. "You came to his office," Savannah said. "I did, without telling me." "Yes." "Why?" Sierra wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "Because I owed him an apology too, not just you." Savannah studied her sister. She was very good at reading people. Years of clinical training had sharpened what was already a natural skill. She could read vital signs. She could read body language. She could read the difference between pain someone was reporting and pain someone was hiding. She read Sierra now. "Do you still have feelings for him?" Savannah asked. Sierra looked at the table, then back up. "That's not a fair question." It's the only question that matters. Sierra was quiet for a beat. Then, I'm working on it. Savannah set her coffee cup down. Sierra, working on it is not good enough. Her voice didn't rise, didn't waver. I am 4 months away from marrying the man I love, and my sister, my identical twin sister, is working on not having feelings for him. I know how this looks. Stop saying that, Savannah said. You've been saying that for days. Stop telling me how it looks and tell me what it is. Opened her mouth, closed it, then she said something that surprised both of them. Been in love with him since junior year. Words landed like stones in still water. Savannah didn't move. Since junior year, she repeated. Since the day you told us about him at dinner, Sierra said. She wasn't performing now. She wasn't calculating. She was just saying the thing that had been true for almost a decade. I saw you glow and I knew he was different. And she stopped. I convinced myself I could make it go away. I tried. I dated Trevor. I threw myself into school, but it never went away. Savannah looked at her sister for a very long time. Did you try to take him from me? She asked. Yes, Sierra said. Not all at once, but yes. Positioned myself, I engineered situations, I was strategic about it. She exhaled. I told myself I deserved a chance too, that if he got to know me, really know me, things might be different. Was never yours to have a chance with, Savannah said quietly, without cruelty but without softness either, just truth. He chose me, he's been choosing me for 6 years. I know, I am your sister, your twin, your blood, and you did this anyway. Sierra didn't look away. Yes. Something crystallized in Savannah's face, like a decision being made in real time. I'm not canceling the wedding, she said. I want you to know that. Whatever this is, whatever you've been doing, it does not get to take that from me. I've loved Jackson for 6 years. I'm going to marry him. Sierra nodded slowly. But you cannot be at the wedding, Savannah said. Sierra blinked. That one landed differently. That one hurt. You could see it. Savannah, I'm not doing it to punish you, Savannah said. I'm doing it because I need to stand at that altar and only feel what I feel, not wonder if you're watching him, not look out at the guests and see your face and feel all of this. She paused. I need that day to be clean, and I can't have it be clean with you there. Sierra sat very still. After the wedding, Savannah said, we can figure out what we are. Maybe we get back to being sisters. Maybe it takes time, but the wedding, no. Sierra picked up her coffee. Set it back down without drinking. Okay, she said. Won't come to the wedding, Sierra said, soft, still. Savannah looked at her sister's face, her own face, mirrored back at her, and felt the specific grief of a love that hasn't ended but has been broken into something it can never quite be again. She paid for both coffees and walked out. Here is what happened in the 3 months between that breakfast and the wedding. Savannah and Jackson worked on their relationship the way two people work on something that matters, slowly, imperfectly, with a lot of late-night conversations and a few setbacks, and the steady, patient rebuilding of trust. Jackson was transparent in a way he hadn't been before, no more deciding for himself what Savannah could handle, no more quiet choices made in the name of protecting her. He told her everything, every text, every interaction, everything. It was hard. Some nights it was very hard, but they were doing the work. Marie, meanwhile, had become Savannah's logistical general for the wedding, venue, flowers, catering, seating charts. She attacked the planning with the same blunt, organized energy she applied to everything. She made it fun when Savannah needed fun and serious when serious was required. Going to have the most beautiful wedding, Marie told her 3 weeks out while they were doing a final walkthrough of the venue, an outdoor garden in East Nashville with string lights and a stone pathway. And then you're going to have an incredible marriage, and Sierra is going to have to live with her choices. Savannah laughed, a real one, the first genuinely easy laugh in weeks. That sounds very satisfying, she admitted. It is, Marie said firmly. I've already planned the satisfaction in detail. Daniel and Diana drove up from Greenfield 2 weeks before the wedding. Daniel was slower with his cane, but more present than Savannah could ever remember him being. He sat with her on the apartment balcony one evening and held her hand and said very little, which was exactly what she needed. Diana asked quietly once where Sierra was. She's not coming to the wedding, Savannah said simply. Diana looked at her. Are you okay? I will be, Savannah said. Diana squeezed her hand and said nothing more, because Diana Caldwell had watched her 2 daughters grow into the people they were. She had her own quiet grief about what Sierra had done, and she had her own quiet pride in how Savannah was handling it. She didn't need to say any of that out loud. Some things a mother communicates just by staying. In D.C., Sierra completed her 2nd year of medical school. She was still excellent, still precise. Her professors still called her exceptional. She called Savannah once 2 weeks before the wedding. Savannah let it go to voicemail. Sierra left a message. She said, I hope it's everything you want it to be. I mean that. I'm sorry I won't be there. Savannah listened to it 3 times. Then she set her phone face down on the counter and went back to reviewing wedding seating charts with Marie. She thought that was the end of it. She was wrong. The wedding is 2 weeks away. Savannah and Jackson have done the work. They've been honest. Sierra has said she's stepping back, but we are not at the end of this story. We are not even close. Because Sierra Caldwell, the girl with the journal, the girl who plans everything, has been quiet for 3 months. And quiet for Sierra has never meant giving up. Quiet has always meant she is building something. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe right now because this is getting a lot more interesting and you cannot miss any part of it. Nashville was warm for May. The kind of warm that feels like a promise. The air smelled like cut grass and something blooming that Savannah couldn't name. Savannah was at the hotel, a beautiful boutique place in East Nashville that the whole wedding party had booked out. She and Jackson weren't seeing each other tonight, tradition honored. He was at the hotel too, on a different floor, probably playing cards with his groomsmen. The Mercer side of the guest list had flown in from Atlanta, his parents, his aunt and uncle, family friends who brought with them the easy confidence of people who had always had enough. Jackson's parents, Harold and Vivienne Mercer, were gracious, warm, and visibly delighted with Savannah. Vivienne had pulled her aside at the rehearsal dinner and said, "That boy of mine does not love halfway. You got all of him, I need you to know that." Savannah had held on to that. She was in the bridal suite with Marie and 2 of her medical school friends, a woman named Cynthia, warm and funny, who wanted to be a pediatrician, and a woman named Dana, quiet and brilliant, who was going into neurology. They had wine and takeout. They laughed too loudly. Someone put on a playlist that started serious and devolved into old R&B that everyone knew every word to. Savannah, sitting on the floor with her back against the bed, wine glass in hand, feeling for the first time in months like everything was going to be okay, got a call, unknown number. Nashville area code. She almost didn't answer. Something made her. Hello, a pause, then a woman's voice, careful, like someone choosing each word. Is this Savannah Caldwell? It is. Who's this? My name is Angela Webb. I work at the front desk of the Riverside Hotel. I'm calling because there's a woman here. She checked in an hour ago. She says her name is Savannah Caldwell. She has your ID, your medical school ID. The room went very still, or maybe that was just Savannah. She's been asking for Mr. Jackson Mercer's room number, Angela continued. We haven't given it to her, but I found the number for the wedding coordinator who had a contact for the bridal party, and I thought I didn't know what to do. Savannah set her wine glass down on the carpet. She stood up. Marie was watching her, reading her face. Thank you, Savannah said to Angela, steady, measured. Please keep her at the front desk. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Do not give her any room numbers. Of course, she hung up. Marie was already standing. What happened? Sierra is downstairs, Savannah said, with my ID, asking for Jackson's room number. The room went very quiet. Cynthia said, What? Dana said nothing. Just looked at Savannah with eyes that understood, on some level, that something very serious was happening. Marie picked up her shoes. Let's go. You don't have to, Savannah. Marie looked at her with that particular look she'd been giving her since they were 10 years old. The look that meant, we are doing this together whether you say so or not. Savannah nodded. They went downstairs. The lobby of the Riverside Hotel was all warm wood and soft lighting and the gentle sound of live piano somewhere nearby. It was a beautiful hotel, and standing at the front desk, wearing a dress Savannah recognized, a navy-wrapped dress, one of Savannah's own, was Sierra, hair done the way Savannah sometimes wore hers, posture adjusted, standing, walking, existing as Savannah. When Sierra turned and saw them coming across the lobby, something moved through her face. Surprise, and then calculation. You could see it happen in real time. The rapid reassessment. Savannah walked straight up to her sister. Was so close they could have been looking in a mirror. Give me my ID, Savannah said. Sierra reached into the dress pocket, Savannah's dress pocket, and held out the ID. Savannah took it. You were going to go to his room, Savannah said, quietly so only Sierra could hear. Dressed as me with my ID, the night before my wedding. Sierra said nothing. What were you going to do, Sierra? What was the plan? Sierra looked at her, and for just a second, just 1 second, all the armor was gone. And what Savannah saw underneath, it was something she hadn't expected. Not coldness, not cruelty, desperation. I don't know, Sierra said, and it was the most honest thing she'd said in a very long time. I didn't have a plan, I couldn't let it happen without trying. Trying what? Savannah's voice was still quiet, still measured, but there was something under it now, something shaking. To be me, to trick him into thinking you were me. Is that what you were going to do? Sierra closed her eyes briefly. Sierra, I don't know, Sierra said again. Out of this hotel, Savannah said. Tonight, now go back to DC and do not come back until I call you. Do you understand me? Sierra opened her eyes, looked at her sister, and for a moment, just a moment, Savannah thought she saw something break, real breaking. Kind that happens when you've been carrying something for so long that you've forgotten what it felt like to put it down. Sorry, Sierra said, barely audible. I know you are, Savannah said. Go home. Sierra picked up her bag, walked past them, walked to the exit. She didn't look back. Marie, standing just behind Savannah, watched her go. Okay, she asked. Savannah looked at the door Sierra had just walked through. I'm going to be, she said. You want to tell Jackson? Tomorrow, Savannah said. After the wedding, tonight I want to sleep. I want to wake up in the morning and get married. And none of this gets to take that. Marie nodded, slipped her arm through Savannah's. Let's go back upstairs, Marie said. I believe there was wine. Despite everything, despite the night she'd just had, the year she'd just had, the decade of her sister's quiet, patient betrayal, Savannah laughed. There was wine, she confirmed. They went back upstairs, May in Nashville, warm and golden and smelling like honeysuckle. The garden venue was everything Savannah had chosen it to be. String lights wound through oak trees, white chairs in rows on the soft grass, a stone pathway leading to the arch where the ceremony would happen, covered in white roses and trailing greenery. Savannah got ready in the bridal suite with Marie, Cynthia, Dana, and Diana, who cried the moment she saw her daughter in the dress, and then pulled herself together with impressive speed and went back to helping with the veil. Daniel was there too, earlier, before the women took over. He'd come to the suite in his good suit, cane in hand, and stood in the doorway looking at his daughter. You look like your mother, he said. The day I knew I was in trouble. Vanna had held his face in her hands and pressed her forehead to his, and they'd stayed like that for a moment, father and daughter, all the complicated history between them held gently, not erased, but somehow lighter than it used to be. Love you, Daddy, she said. Love you, baby, he said. More than I've ever known how to say. He went and found his seat before he made a scene. Marie fixed Savannah's lipstick and handed her bouquet and said, You ready? Savannah looked at herself in the mirror. White dress, natural curls pinned up with a few loose ones falling around her face. The small gold earrings Jackson had given her for their one-year anniversary, years ago, the ring that had been on her finger since a Nashville parking lot on a May evening just like this one. She thought briefly about Sierra, not with anger, not with bitterness, just briefly, a flash of grief for a version of this day that had a different shape, one where her sister stood at the altar beside her. One where they shared this the way they'd shared everything else growing up, but that version wasn't this version, and this version was hers, real and whole and chosen. I'm ready, she said. Daniel walked her down the aisle. Jackson was at the end of it, tall, dark-suited, the exact version of himself he'd always been, but standing there looking at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever thought to ask. He was crying before she even reached him, quietly. Just a few tears, brushed away quickly. As a man who loved her without pretending not to, she reached him. Daniel put her hand in Jackson's. Take care of her, Daniel said to Jackson. Every day, Jackson said, without hesitation. The ceremony was simple and real and entirely them. They'd written their own vows. Jackson spoke first about the library, about Othello, about fate and choice, about choosing her every day since junior year of high school and planning to choose her every day for the rest of his life. The guests were very quiet. Savannah spoke second. I spent a long time learning that love isn't something that just happens to you, she said. It's something you decide, over and over again, in the easy moments and the hard ones and the ones that test everything you thought you knew. She looked at him. I've decided to love you every time it counted, and I plan to keep deciding. Marie, in the front row, was not even pretending not to cry. Cynthia handed her a tissue. Dana, stoic and composed, was also crying. She just did it very neatly. They were married, under string lights and oak trees and a Nashville sky going golden with late afternoon. They were married. The reception was loud and warm and exactly right. Harold Mercer gave a toast that made the room laugh and then go quiet when he got emotional at the end. Vivienne danced with Jackson and then grabbed Savannah and danced with her too, and she had the kind of rhythm that made you understand exactly who Jackson got it from. Daniel danced with Diana. Slowly, with his cane set aside and his arm around her and his eyes closed, the whole room noticed. Nobody said anything. Some moments don't need narration. Marie gave the maid of honor toast. It was, by universal agreement, the best speech of the night. I have known Savannah Caldwell since we were 10 years old, Marie said, standing with a microphone and a glass of champagne, wearing her bridesmaid dress and her very best poker face. In that time, I have watched her be endlessly, recklessly, sometimes frustratingly kind to everyone around her. She paused. I have also watched her be one of the strongest people I have ever met, the kind of strength you don't announce, the kind that just holds, quietly, every time it's needed. She looked at Jackson. Jackson Mercer, she said, I have watched you love my best friend for years. I have had my eye on you the entire time. Consider yourself warned. A beat, laughter. But also thank you for being someone worth choosing. She raised her glass. To Savannah and Jackson, may you always be this honest with each other, and may your lives be full of everything you deserve. Savannah and Jackson, the room echoed. Savannah looked at her best friend across the room and mouthed, I love you. Marie mouthed back, I know. Later, much later, when the lights were lower and the dancing had slowed and some guests had gone, Savannah and Jackson sat at a table together alone for the first time all night. He had his arm around her. She had her head on his shoulder. Sierra came to the hotel last night, she said. She felt him go still. She was dressed as me. She had my ID. She was asking for your room number. Silence. Angela at the front desk caught it. She called the wedding coordinator. We went down and sent Sierra home. Savannah paused. I didn't tell you because I didn't want it to be part of today. Jackson was quiet for a long time. Savannah, he said. I handled it, she said. It's done. I'm sorry, he said. That she did that, that any of this, hey. She lifted her head and looked at him. This was a good day, a really good day. Don't let her take it. He looked at her for a moment, then he pulled her close again. It was a good day, he said. They sat like that for a while, the music slow and easy, the string lights golden above them, the night warm and full of the particular piece of something finally, actually done right. They were married. Sierra had not taken it. And for the first time in a long time, Savannah let herself believe that the worst was over. She was wrong, but not in the way she thought. Because here's what Sierra was doing at that exact moment, while Savannah and Jackson sat in their string-light wedding piece in Nashville. She was on a flight back to DC and she was writing in her journal, and what she wrote changed everything. This is what Sierra wrote on that flight. She wrote in her precise, controlled handwriting, every word deliberate, every sentence thought through. She wrote, I have spent years trying to do this the right way, to earn something I was never going to be given, to wait and position and hope that desire alone was enough to shift the outcome. She wrote, I was wrong, not about wanting him, not about believing I could be what he needs, but about the method, about patience. Patience assumes the situation will change on its own. This situation will not change on its own. They are married now. The door I was watching has closed, she wrote, but I am a doctor. And doctors know something civilians don't. Doors that close can be reopened. What seems permanent rarely is. And the most powerful tool in any system is knowledge of how that system works. She wrote, I know how Savannah works. I know how Jackson works. I know every pressure point, every fear, every soft place. She wrote, I have been playing the long game wrong. I have been playing for access. I should have been playing for replacement. And then she underlined one sentence twice. If Savannah is not there, I am the only Savannah there is. She closed the journal, looked out the plane window at the dark, and Sierra Caldwell, brilliant, calculating, desperate Sierra Caldwell, began to plan the most dangerous thing she had ever planned, not to steal a man, not to seduce her sister's husband, but to become her sister completely, totally, permanently, which meant Savannah would have to disappear. 6 months passed. They were the 6 most quietly ordinary months Savannah and Jackson had experienced in years. They settled into married life with the ease of 2 people who had already been building a life together for a long time and were simply making it official. They disagreed about dishes and dishwasher loading philosophies. They discovered they had completely opposite opinions about thermostat settings. Jackson was a night owl. Savannah was up at 5:30 for morning runs before the hospital. It was imperfect and warm and deeply, genuinely good. Savannah called Sierra in September. 3 months after the wedding, Sierra answered on the first ring. Hi, Savannah said. Hi, Sierra said. I'm not ready to fully forgive you, Savannah said. I want to be honest about that. I'm still working through it. I understand. You're my sister, Savannah said, and I don't want to lose you completely, so I'm calling to say I'm trying. Sierra was quiet for a moment. Thank you, she said. And her voice was careful. I'm trying too. They talked for 20 minutes. Surface things, medical school, the apartment, Diana and Daniel, neutral ground. 2 people rebuilding something from rubble, starting with the smallest, sturdiest stones they could find. It felt like progress. It was, from Savannah's side, entirely genuine. From Sierra's side, it was also something else. Because in the 3 months since the wedding, Sierra had not stopped planning. She'd just gotten smarter about it. She had begun quietly and methodically to study her sister's life. Not obsessively, that would be sloppy, but surgically. The way you study a system before you intervene in it. She knew Savannah's schedule at the hospital, the rotation she was on, the days she worked nights. She knew the route Savannah ran every morning. She knew the neighbors in the building, their names and habits. She knew Jackson's schedule at the firm, his project deadlines, the conferences he attended. She knew all of it. She was waiting for the right moment. The right moment came in November. In November, Savannah called Sierra and invited her to Nashville for Thanksgiving. "It's time," Savannah said. "We need to be in the same room, figure out how to do this." "You sure?" Sierra said. "I don't want to make things uncomfortable." "It'll be uncomfortable regardless," Savannah said. And because she was Savannah, she said it with a small, honest laugh. "But I'd rather do uncomfortable together than stay separate forever." Sierra agreed. She came to Nashville the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. She brought wine and a sweet potato pie from a bakery she knew Savannah loved. She was warm, she was funny, she was careful. She didn't push anything with Jackson. She treated him with exactly the right distance, polite, family-appropriate, nothing more. Jackson was guarded at first. But Jackson was also fundamentally a decent person, and Savannah had chosen reconciliation, and he respected that. So he met Sierra where she was, cordial, civil, present. Thanksgiving dinner was around the table with Daniel and Diana, who'd driven up for the occasion. Marie came for dessert, because Marie was not missing dessert under any circumstances, and sat next to Savannah and maintained a watchful eye on Sierra that Sierra pretended not to notice. After dinner, while the men watched football and Diana and Daniel dozed on the couch, Marie pulled Savannah into the kitchen. "She's different," Marie said. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," Marie frowned. "She's behaving perfectly, which is exactly what bothers me." Savannah looked at her. "Marie, I know," Marie said. "I know you've decided to move forward. I support you. I just watch her, okay? I know she's your sister. Just keep your eyes open." "I always do," Savannah said. "No, you don't," Marie said, not unkindly. "That's the problem. You watch people, but you interpret what you see generously. It's one of my favorite things about you. It's also the thing that gets you in trouble." Savannah thought about that. "Be careful," she said. "Good," Marie said, and went back to the sweet potato pie Sierra left on Saturday, said all the right things, hugged Savannah a little too long maybe, but that could be explained by the weight of everything between them. At the door, she looked at her sister. "Thank you for this," she said, "for giving me a chance." "You're my sister," Savannah said. "That doesn't just go away," Sierra nodded. "No," she said quietly, "it doesn't." She got in her car, and as she pulled away from the curb, she was already thinking about February, about a conference she'd told her program director she would attend, about a 4-day window when Savannah would be working nights and Jackson would be in Nashville alone, about how much she now knew, about what she was prepared to do with it. February, cold, gray, the month that feels like the world forgot to try. Savannah was on night rotation at the hospital, 12 hours, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 4 nights in a row. It was brutal, but it was temporary, and she'd done it before. She came home in the early mornings, slept until early afternoon, got up, ate, kissed Jackson, and went back. On the second night of her rotation, she came home at 7:15 a.m. and found the apartment empty. Jackson had already left for work. She made herself coffee. Noticed that the throw blanket on the couch was on the floor, which meant Jackson had slept on the couch again. He sometimes did that when she was on nights, said the bedroom felt too quiet without her. She smiled at that. She drank her coffee. She went to bed. At 11 a.m., she woke to a text from Jackson. "Hey, running an errand at lunch, be back around 1. Love you." She texted back, "Okay, love you. Don't bring home the expensive coffee. This time we have a whole bag." He sent back a laughing emoji, then a coffee cup emoji, then a money bag emoji. She laughed, put her phone down, went back to sleep. She did not know that at 11:45 a.m. on the other side of Nashville, Sierra Caldwell, who was supposed to be in D.C. at a medical conference, was walking into a coffee shop 2 blocks from Jackson's office. Hair styled the way Savannah styled hers, clothes from Savannah's general aesthetic, the navy coat, the neutral boots. She'd had the coffee from this specific shop, had gone once during Thanksgiving. She'd noted the barista who'd been friendly. She'd noted the corner table where the light was good. She sat down with a coffee and opened a medical textbook and waited. Jackson came in at 12:15. He ordered, turned to find a seat, and stopped. She looked up, let their eyes meet, and smiled. Savannah's smile on Sierra's face. Jackson stood very still. "Sierra," he said, not a greeting, something else. "Hi," she said, supposed to be at a conference. "I came back early." "Savannah, know you're in Nashville." A pause that told him everything. He picked up his coffee, turned to leave. "Jackson." Her voice was quiet, careful. I'm not here to cause trouble, I promise. I wanted to see you. I know it sounds like exactly what it is, he said, not unkindly, but firmly. Sierra, stop. Whatever this is, stop. I love my wife. I chose my wife. And you are her sister. This has to end. She looked at him. Something flickered across her face. I know, she said. He held her gaze for a moment. Then he walked out. He called Savannah the moment he reached the sidewalk. She was asleep. He got voicemail. I need to talk to you when you wake up. It's about Sierra. She's here in Nashville. She was at the coffee shop near my office. I left. I didn't engage. I'm heading back to the office. But I wanted you to know right away, I love you. He hung up. He walked back to the office. And in the coffee shop, Sierra stared at the door he'd walked out of. The carefully constructed plan in her mind was not working the way she'd built it. Jackson was not vulnerable. Jackson was not wavering. Jackson was solid in a way she had not fully accounted for. She sat with that for a long moment. And then she thought, if the front door won't open, find another entrance. And she started thinking about something she'd been avoiding thinking about, something darker, something she'd written in her journal at 30,000 feet over Tennessee 6 months ago. If Savannah is not there, I am the only Savannah there is. She'd meant it as a metaphor then. But metaphors have a way of becoming literal when desperate people run out of other options. Are you still with me? Because I need you to understand what is happening right now. Sierra has run out of conventional options. Jackson has drawn a firm line. Savannah is fighting to rebuild. And Sierra, brilliant, methodical medical student Sierra, is sitting in a coffee shop thinking thoughts that no loving sister should ever think. You are absolutely not prepared for this. Subscribe, hit the bell, tell someone about this story. What Sierra planned was not impulsive. Nothing Sierra did was ever impulsive. She went back to DC. She completed her rotation. She studied for her boards. She attended rounds. She was, to everyone who knew her professionally, completely normal. And in the quiet hours, late nights, early mornings, she planned. She thought about what she knew from medicine, from pharmacology, from the careful clinical study of how human bodies and human minds could be influenced without obvious force. She thought about Savannah's running route. She thought about Savannah's schedule. She thought about a stretch of road Savannah ran every morning, a trail through a park near the apartment. Wooded, quiet, not well lit in the early hours. She thought about how identical they were, how Savannah's ID still had her old photo, how Savannah's medical credentials bore a name that was also Sierra's last name, how thoroughly she had spent the last year studying her sister's life, her patterns, her voice, her mannerisms. She thought about Jackson's grief if something happened to Savannah. She thought about a widow and a sister who looked exactly like his wife. She thought about all of it. And in March, cold, still March, 4 months after Thanksgiving, she booked a flight to Nashville. She told her program director she had a family emergency. She packed light. She brought things she'd need. She prepared in the way she prepared for everything, completely, quietly, without leaving room for error. She was going to make Savannah disappear, not permanently. She told herself that. She wasn't a killer. She wasn't that person, just long enough for Jackson to think the worst had happened, long enough for Sierra, as Savannah, to step into the space her sister had left, long enough to become the only version of Savannah that remained. She landed in Nashville on a Thursday night. She checked into a hotel under a false name, easy enough when you had cash and a decent poker face. She knew Savannah ran on Friday mornings at 5:45 a.m. She set her alarm for 5:00, and she went to sleep 5:45 a.m. Friday morning. The park trail was quiet the way pre-dawn things are quiet, completely, utterly still, with just the sound of distant birds beginning and the soft thud of running shoes on packed earth. Savannah ran with earbuds in. She always did. A playlist she'd had for 3 years, folk and R&B, and a few hip-hop tracks that Jackson had snuck on there as a joke and that she'd left because they made her smile. She rounded the bend at the halfway point, the spot where the trail dipped between 2 large oaks and the light didn't reach yet, and saw someone standing in the middle of the path. She slowed, pulled one earbud out, squinted. Hello, the figure stepped forward. Into the gray pre-dawn light, Savannah stopped completely. Because the person standing in front of her looked exactly like her, same face, same hair, running gear. Sierra, what are you? Savannah started. I'm sorry, Sierra said. And she said it the way you say something you mean, absolutely, without qualifier, without softness, without the performance that apologies sometimes carry, just sorry. Raw and direct and real. Savannah looked at her sister, in the half-dark, on a running trail at 5:45 in the morning. What are you doing here? Came to stop, Sierra said. I came because I need to say it in person, in a place where I can't text or call or pretend. I need to say it, and then I need you to tell me how to actually be your sister again, if that's still possible. Savannah looked at her for a long moment. The birds were getting louder, light beginning to push at the horizon. Do you know what I thought when I saw you standing here? Savannah said. No. I thought this is what it's been like for me for years. Savannah's voice was steady, quiet, turning a corner and running into you where I didn't expect you, in my relationship, in my trust, in my life. She paused. And every time I had to decide how to handle it, whether to be angry or forgiving or somewhere in between. Sierra looked at the ground. I'm tired of deciding, Savannah said. I don't want to decide anymore. I want it to just be over. I want my sister back, the real one. Not the one who was running a parallel strategy the whole time, the real one. I don't know if that person exists, Sierra said quietly. Savannah blinked. That surprised her. What? I don't know if I know how to want something and not try to get it, Sierra said. I don't know if I know how to love people without calculating what I get from it. I've been like this my whole life. I've always known it. She stopped. I don't know how to be different. Honesty of it was startling. Even for Savannah, because it was the first time in all of this that Sierra had said something that wasn't strategy, wasn't positioning, wasn't designed to land in a particular way. It was just truth. Uncomfortable and unglamorous and real. Savannah looked at her sister, her identical twin, the person she had shared a womb with, a face with, a name with for almost 30 years. Then you learn, Savannah said. That's what therapy is for. That's what being a person is for. You learn. If I can't, then you keep trying, Savannah said, because the alternative is being exactly who you've been, and look where that's gotten you. Looked at her, something in her face shifted, something that looked, for the first time in this entire long story, like a person actually seeing themselves clearly, not through the flattering lens of their own narrative, not through the justification of desire and grievance and fairness, but clearly, honestly. The way it feels when someone holds up a mirror you can't look away from. I need to get help, Sierra said. Yes, Savannah said. You do. Will you? Sierra started again. If I get help, if I actually commit to it, will there be a version of us that survives this? Savannah was quiet for a long time, long enough that the light changed, long enough that the trail started to get color. I don't know, she said finally, but I'm still here, on this trail. Talking to you at 6 in the morning instead of running away. She looked at her sister. So probably yes, but it won't be fast, and it won't be easy, and you don't get to run that timeline. I do. Okay, Sierra said. Okay, Savannah said. What were you going to do? Savannah asked. When you came to Nashville, what was the actual plan? Sierra looked at the ground, didn't answer for a long time. Something I'm glad I didn't do, she said finally. Savannah held that. Let the weight of it settle. I don't want to know, Savannah said. Not today, maybe not ever. Sierra nodded. Go home, Savannah said. Find a therapist, call me in a month, not before. Okay, Sierra. Savannah looked at her sister one more time in the growing light, two faces that were the same and the people behind them utterly different. I love you, I've always loved you, even now, even after all of this. Sierra's face did something then that it rarely ever did. It cracked completely, not a controlled crack. Not a strategic one, real, ugly, inconvenient grief. The kind that doesn't care who's watching. She pressed her hand to her mouth. Savannah didn't hug her, not yet. That would come maybe in time, but she stayed. And sometimes staying is the only form of love you can offer, and sometimes it's enough. Exactly 1 month after the running trail, Savannah sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee she had not yet touched and her phone in front of her. Jackson was at work. The apartment was quiet. She'd thought about this call for the entire month. What she'd ask, what she was prepared to hear, whether she was actually prepared to hear it at all. Because here is the thing about Savannah Caldwell, she was a doctor. She understood that some information, once received, could not be unreceived. That knowing something changed the landscape of everything you thought you knew before it. That truth was not always a kindness, but she also understood that not knowing was its own kind of wound, one that festered. She picked up the phone, dialed Sierra. Sierra answered on the first ring. Been waiting, Sierra said. I know, Savannah said. I'm ready now. Tell me everything, from the beginning, all of it. Everything, Sierra said. Everything. Another pause, longer, then Sierra began. She talked for 2 hours and 19 minutes. Savannah did not interrupt once. She listened the way she listened to patients, fully, without flinching, without looking away from the parts that were hard to look at. She let it come in completely, all of it, the strategy and the lies and the deliberate maneuvering and the lobby at the hotel the night before the wedding and the coffee shop in February and the things written in the journal, the plan. The actual plan, the running trail, the hotel under a false name. The alarm set for 5 a.m. The word Sierra had written at 30,000 feet. If Savannah is not there, I am the only Savannah there is. Savannah sat with that sentence for a very long time after Sierra said it. She did not cry. She would cry later. She would cry for a long time later, in the shower, where nobody could see it, where she could let the full weight of what her sister had almost done come down on her all at once, without having to manage anyone else's reaction to it. But right now she was on the phone and she needed to finish hearing. "Why did you stop?" Savannah asked when Sierra finished. "What made you stop?" "Silence." "You did," Sierra said. "I was in that hotel room, alarm set, everything planned, and I lay there in the dark and I kept seeing your face, not because I was scared of getting caught, not because I was afraid of what would happen to me." She paused. "Because I saw your face the way it looked at the restaurant. When you told me you weren't canceling the wedding. When you looked at me and said, 'It does not get to take that from me,' a breath. You were so," Sierra's voice broke slightly, barely, but it broke. "You were so sure, not arrogant, just sure, sure of what you deserved, sure of what you'd built. And I realized that taking that from you wouldn't make me you, it would just make me a person who destroyed you, and I didn't want to be that person." Savannah closed her eyes. "Are you in therapy?" She said, "Yes, weekly. I started the week I got back from the trail." "It helping?" "It's terrifying," Sierra said, "which my therapist says means yes." Savannah almost smiled. "Almost, Sierra." "I know," Sierra said quietly. "You were going to make me disappear. I know, my husband, my life, you were going to step into it. You stopped yourself." "Yes." Savannah was quiet for a long time. "I don't know what to do with this," she finally said. "I know," Sierra said. "I'm not asking you to do anything with it. I just needed you to know, because you asked, and because you deserved the whole truth, even the parts of it that are ugly, even the parts that are terrifying," Savannah said, "especially those." Savannah sat with the phone against her ear. The coffee had gone cold. The apartment was still quiet. "Need to think," Savannah said. "Take all the time you need. I need to talk to Jackson." A pause from Sierra's end. "I know," Sierra said. "He's going to want to go to the police." "I know," Sierra said again, quieter. "You understand that? That telling him might mean you do what you need to do," Sierra said. "I'm not going to ask you to protect me, not from this." Savannah sat with that. It was, she realized, the most dignity Sierra had ever shown in any of this. "Okay," Savannah said. "Okay," Sierra said. They hung up. Savannah sat at the kitchen table for 45 minutes after that. The cold coffee. The quiet apartment. The weight of what she was now carrying. Then she picked up her phone and called Jackson. "Can you come home early?" she said. "I need to talk to you." He was home within the hour. He walked in and saw her face, that particular expression she got when something was serious, and she was trying not to broadcast it to the whole room, and he put his bag down and sat across from her without saying anything. He had learned, in the last year, to wait for her to lead. He told him all of it, the journal entry on the plane, the hotel under false name, the alarm set for 5 a.m., the trail, the plan that Sierra had stopped herself from carrying out. She told him the same way she'd been told, straight, without softening, without editorial, and she watched his face change. She had seen Jackson Mercer in many emotional states across many years. She'd seen him cry at their wedding. She'd seen him frustrated and tired and joyful and scared. She had not seen this. This was something slower and colder and deeper than anger. He sat very still when she finished, his hands flat on the table, the same way she'd held her own hands the night Marie saw the text. The symmetry of it was not lost on her. "She was going to make you disappear," he said. "She stopped herself," Savannah said. "She planned it," Jackson said. "She booked a hotel. She set an alarm. She was going to." He stopped, pressed his hands harder against the table. "Jackson." "Savannah, she was going to hurt you." "Stopped," Savannah said again, steady, purposeful. "That is not a sufficient defense," he said. His voice was even, but it had an edge she rarely heard from him. "Stopping yourself before you commit a crime is not the same as not being someone who planned one. I know that. What do you want to do?" The question sat between them, because that was the question. That was always the question in this story. What do you want to do? Not what does the law say, not what is the logical, pragmatic, obvious answer, but what does Savannah Caldwell want to do with the information that her twin sister planned something dark and then chose not to do it? Savannah looked at her husband. "I want to hear what you think," she said, "before I tell you what I want, because your safety is in this too, and your choice matters." He looked at her for a long time. "Tell me what you want first," he said. "I'll tell you if I can get there." She took a breath. "I don't want to go to the police," she said. "Not because I'm excusing what she planned, but because she didn't do it. And I think she is the kind of person who could do something real with that choice, if she has enough support and enough accountability and enough time." Jackson was quiet. "She's your sister," he said. "She's my sister," Savannah confirmed. Savannah, she almost." "I know." Her voice didn't waver. "I know what she almost did. I've been sitting with that for the last hour and I'll be sitting with it for a long time, but I also know that she stopped. And I know that she told me the truth when she didn't have to. When I said I didn't want to know, she could have let me not know and I would never have found out. Jackson looked at the table. She told me because she thought I deserved the truth, Savannah said, even knowing what it might cost her. And that's not nothing, Jackson. That's not nothing. Silence, long, weighty silence. I need conditions, Jackson said finally. Savannah looked at him. Tell me. Does not have unsupervised access to you, not for a long time. She does not come to this apartment without me here. She does not contact me directly. She stays in therapy. Verified, you speak to her therapist directly with her permission once a month. He paused. And if there is ever any indication that the planning has started again, in any form, we go to the police immediately. No conversation, no grace period. Immediately. Savannah listened to every word. Then she nodded. Those are fair, she said. Can you live with all of them? Yes. Then I can live with your decision, he said. Not happily, but I can live with it. She reached across the table and put her hand on his. He turned his hand over and held hers. Love you, she said. I know, he said. I love you too, even when your capacity for forgiveness terrifies me. She almost smiled. It terrifies me too, she said. Sometimes. Savannah drove to Marie's apartment, a place in a neighborhood near the community college where Marie now worked as an administrative coordinator, and sat down at Marie's kitchen table and told her. Marie was very quiet through all of it. This alone was alarming. Marie was not typically quiet. When Savannah finished, Marie got up, went to her refrigerator, got out 2 sodas, set one in front of Savannah, sat back down. She planned to make you disappear, Marie said. She stopped herself, Savannah said. She was getting practiced at saying it. Savannah, I know, stopped herself, Marie repeated slowly, like she was testing the weight of the sentence. And you are deciding not to go to the police. Yes, Marie looked at her for a long time. Want you to know, Marie said carefully, that I disagree. For the record, I think what Sierra did, what she planned to do, crossed a line that I don't think you come back from. I think she is dangerous, and I think you are being generous in a way that I am not capable of being. Savannah held that. And Marie said, and her voice shifted into something softer, I also know that this is your life and your sister and your choice, and I am going to support that choice, even while disagreeing with it, because that is what I do, because that is what we are. Savannah felt the particular ache of being fully known by someone. Thank you, she said. Thank me, Marie said. I have conditions of my own. Savannah raised an eyebrow. Conditions? Sierra does not call me, ever. I'm not doing a reconciliation arc with Sierra. That is your business, not mine. Marie picked up her soda. And if she pulls anything, you call me first. Before Jackson, before your parents, me, and I will handle the rest. You'll call the police, Savannah said. I will call the police so fast, Marie confirmed, that the police will wonder how I got there before them. This time Savannah did smile. A real one, deal, she said. Good, Marie said. Now drink your soda and tell me something that does not involve either of your sisters or your husband's reaction to any of this, because I need a break from the drama. I don't have a different sister. I know, I was just hopping, Savannah laughed. And it felt good. Simple and good, the way laughter between old friends always does. Telling her parents was the hardest, not because they would react badly, but because they were old and had been through enough, and because what Savannah was about to hand them was the knowledge that one of their daughters had planned something that could have destroyed the other. She drove to Greenfield in April. On a Sunday, spring had come to Mississippi the way it always did, loudly, with color and warmth and the smell of things growing back. Daniel was on the porch when she pulled up. He had a glass of sweet tea and his cane propped against the railing, and the particular expression of a man who has been waiting without knowing he was waiting. Hey, baby, he said. Hey, Daddy. She sat beside him on the porch swing, the same porch swing she and Sierra had sat on as children, summer evenings, fireflies in the yard. Diana came out with her own tea and sat on the other side, and Savannah told them. She told them carefully. She chose what to include and what to leave out, not to protect Sierra exactly, but to protect them. She told them the shape of it, the ambition that had curdled into obsession, the plan that had been made and then stopped. She did not tell them every detail. Some details were hers alone to carry. Daniel was very still when she finished. Diana was crying, quietly, the way she always cried, without making it about herself, without asking anyone to manage it for her. She stopped herself, Savannah said. I heard you, Daniel said. His voice was low. Something in it she hadn't heard much, a kind of grief that only comes when you realize you missed something, that it happened under your roof in your family and you didn't see it. Daddy, Savannah said. I should have seen, he said. I always said she was going to be powerful. I said it like it was a good thing, like all power was good. He shook his head. I never asked what she was going to do with it. Daniel, Diana said softly, not blaming myself, he said quickly. I'm sitting with it. They sat with it together for a long time, the yard spread out before them, the same yard the girls had played in, the same grass, the same oak tree that had always been too big for the yard but nobody had ever had the heart to cut down. Is she getting help? Diana asked finally. Yes, Savannah said. Weakly, she started right away. Diana nodded slowly. Then there's hope, Diana said simply. The way Diana said most things, without drama, just the plain architecture of her belief in people, Daniel looked at his daughter. A better person than me, he said, choosing to hold on. I'm a scared person, Savannah said, who doesn't want to lose her sister. That's not the same as being better. He reached over and took her hand. His was older now. Slower, the grip not as strong as it once was, but it was there, and that was what mattered. Dr. Anita Reeves had been a licensed therapist for 19 years. She had worked with high-functioning individuals who used intelligence as armor. She had worked with people who had spent their whole lives performing a version of themselves that the real version couldn't recognize. She had worked with people who loved destructively and people who had been destructively loved. She had not, before Sierra Caldwell, worked with someone quite like Sierra Caldwell. Sierra came to therapy the way she came to everything, prepared. She had done research. She knew the theoretical frameworks. She could name the attachment styles and the cognitive patterns and the childhood developmental experiences that had shaped her. She could narrate her psychology more fluently than most people could feel it. And that, Dr. Reeves told her in their 4th session, was the problem. You are very good at understanding yourself, Dr. Reeves said. She was a black woman in her mid-50s, with natural gray locks and the particular stillness of someone who has heard a great many things and was not easily rattled by any of them. What I'm noticing is that you use understanding as a substitute for feeling. Looked at her. What does that mean? It means that when I ask you how something made you feel, you tell me why you felt it, not what it felt like. The mechanics of the emotion, not the emotion itself. Sierra considered this. Is that unusual for someone who grew up in a home where feelings were unpredictable and sometimes dangerous? Dr. Reeves said, it's extremely common. You learned very early that emotions were threats to be managed, so you developed exceptional skill at managing them, at understanding them, at controlling them. She paused. But you never learned to just have them. Sierra sat with that. I planned to hurt my sister, Sierra said. Yes, I stopped. How does stopping feel like it should be enough? Why does it still feel like it's not? Dr. Reeves looked at her. Because somewhere in you, she said gently, you know that the impulse to do it didn't come from nowhere, and stopping the action doesn't address the wound that generated the impulse. Sierra looked at the window, DC in spring, green and gray and busy. Been jealous of her my whole life, Sierra said, flatly, without drama. I know, Dr. Reeves said. Of anything she had specifically. Just of the ease, the way people came to her, the way she never had to work for warmth. She paused. I've worked for everything my whole life, and I watched her receive things effortlessly that I had to construct strategies to get. That felt unfair, felt like a mistake, Sierra said. Like the universe made an error in distribution. We had the same face, the same DNA, the same starting point, and somehow she got the softness and I got, she stopped. What did you get? Dr. Reeves asked. Sierra was quiet for a long moment. Hunger, she said finally. I got the hunger. Dr. Reeves nodded slowly. Hunger isn't a flaw, she said. Hunger directed well builds things. Hunger has made you extraordinary in your work. Hunger has made you resilient. Hunger almost made me destroy my sister's life. Undirected hunger does that, Dr. Reeves said. That's the work we're doing, not eliminating the hunger, learning where to point it. Sierra looked at her. For the first time in many sessions, something shifted behind her eyes. Not the analytical shift, not the processing shift, something that looked like relief, like being told that the thing you feared most about yourself was not a death sentence, was just a thing that needed direction. Okay, Sierra said. Okay, Dr. Reeves said. They kept going. A year passed. Savannah and Jackson's first year of marriage was the year of quietly becoming fluent in each other, not the honeymoon version, the real version. The version where you learn someone's moods before they speak them and figure out how to fight without wrecking each other and build together, out of all the material of yourselves, something neither of you could have built alone. It was not always easy. There were nights when the full weight of what Sierra had almost done would settle on Savannah in the dark, and she'd lie awake next to Jackson with the fear of it cold in her chest. She'd think about the hotel room, the alarm set for 5 a.m., the running trail. She'd think about the life she almost didn't have, and then she'd reach across and touch Jackson's arm, and he'd make a sound in his sleep and shift toward her, the way people do when they're that comfortable with someone. And the cold would ease, not disappear. But ease. Jackson went to his own therapist, a man named Dr. Whitfield, who helped him process his anger at Sierra, the specific, deep anger of a man who understood how close things had come without letting it consume him. It took time, it took more sessions than he expected, but he did the work, because Savannah was doing it, and because he'd promised. Savannah spoke to Dr. Reeves once a month, short check-ins. She listened to what Dr. Reeves was allowed to share about Sierra's progress, with Sierra's written permission. She tracked it with the same careful attention she gave her patients. Sierra, by all accounts, was doing the work. She completed her second year of medical school, performed at the top of her class. Started slowly, haltingly, to build something that looked like genuine connection with a small number of people who didn't need anything from her. A study partner named Deja who made her laugh. A mentor who saw her hunger and named it and told her to point it at something worthy. She called Savannah once a month. They talked for an hour, about medicine, about their parents, about small things. Carefully, the way you rebuild something after it's been broken, one piece at a time, checking each joint before you put weight on it. It was not the relationship they'd had. It was something different. Something with more distance and more honesty and less assumption. It was fragile, but it was alive. Marie, true to her word, did not call Sierra, did not speak to Sierra, did not acknowledge Sierra's existence in any conversation unless Savannah brought her up first. But she also watched steadily, patiently. The way Marie had always watched things just in case. A year has passed. People are healing. The sharp edges of the betrayal have not disappeared, but they have been handled. Carefully, deliberately. Savannah has done things most people could not do. Jackson has done things most people would not. Sierra is doing the hardest thing there is, becoming someone different from who she was. But this story is not over, because there is one more thing. One more truth that hasn't come out yet. One more confrontation that this story has been building toward since junior year of high school. If you're not subscribed, subscribe right now. Tell someone about this story. The ending is the part that will stay with you. Savannah invited Sierra to Thanksgiving. Again, Jackson was quiet when she told him. He held it for a moment and then said, "Okay, but I set the terms." "What terms?" "She stays at a hotel. She does not sleep here. She arrives after noon and she leaves before 10. And if anything feels off, she goes, without discussion." "Agreed," Savannah said. "And I get to say so," he added. "I don't have to explain it or justify it. I just get to say it's time to go, and she goes. Tell her that before she comes." He paused. "Sure?" he asked. "No," Savannah said honestly, "but I want to try." He looked at her. That way he had of looking at her that felt like the truest form of being seen. "Okay," he said. Sierra arrived on Thanksgiving afternoon, rideshare from the hotel, no rental car. She came in carrying a sweet potato pie from the same bakery as last year, and that small continuity, the repetition of something familiar, felt like a gesture of good faith. She looked different, not dramatically, not in any way a stranger would notice, but Savannah noticed. She had spent 29 years studying her sister's face. She knew every calibration. Sierra looked less armored. That was the only way to describe it. Like something she'd been carrying just below the surface, just behind the composure, had been set down, not completely, but partially. She greeted Daniel and Diana. Warmly but differently than before, less performed, less calibrated for effect. She said hello to Jackson. He said hello back. He was polite and nothing more, and Sierra accepted that without pushing for anything different. They ate dinner. Daniel told stories. Diana laughed and corrected him when he embellished, which was always. Marie was not there. She had sent a text to Savannah that morning that said simply, "Family day, call me after, tell me how it goes," which was the closest thing to a blessing Marie was capable of giving. After dinner, while Jackson and Daniel watched football and Diana napped on the couch, Savannah and Sierra did the dishes together, side by side, shoulders almost touching, hands moving through soap and hot water, like they were 12 again, but not like they were 12. Because everything between them now was visible in a way it hadn't been when they were 12. All the love and the damage and the survival of it laid out plainly between them. They didn't talk about any of it. They talked about Sierra's clinical rotations, about a difficult case Savannah had handled that week, about Daniel's last cardiology appointment, which had gone well, small things, real things. At 9:30, Jackson appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Sierra," he said, measured, calm, "it's getting late." That was all he said. Sierra dried her hands on the dish towel. Of course, she said. She said goodbye to Diana, hugged her parents, hugged Savannah last, brief, careful. At the door she stopped. Thank you, she said to both of them. Jackson nodded. Savannah said, call me Sunday. Sierra looked at her. I will, she said. She went. Jackson and Savannah stood at the closed door for a moment. That was okay, he said. Not a celebration, just a fact. It was okay, Savannah agreed. You did a good thing. Did a good thing, she said, and looked at him. You could have said no, you didn't. He put his arm around her. I trust you, he said. Even when it's hard. She leaned into him. I know, she said. That's why I married you. There is something we need to go back to, something that happened in junior year of high school, at a locker. On a Tuesday morning, Sierra told Jackson that Savannah had been overwhelming in her last relationship. A boy named Derek had found her too much to handle, that she got attached too fast and was a lot. It was the first lie Sierra ever told about Savannah to Jackson. It was, in many ways, the seed of everything that followed. Savannah never knew about it. Jackson had forgotten about it years ago, the way you forget small early things that don't seem to matter once the larger story has revealed itself. But in the second year of their marriage, Jackson mentioned it, not deliberately, not as an accusation. It came up the way old things come up in therapy, because Dr. Whitfield had asked him to trace his feelings about trust back to their origins, and this memory had surfaced. He mentioned it to Savannah one evening. Do you remember early on when Sierra told me you were overwhelming in relationships? With that Derek guy? Savannah looked at him. What? She said. You got attached fast. That it was a lot for the people you dated. Savannah was quiet. She said that to you, she said, junior year. At my locker, Savannah sat back. Derek and I broke up mutually, she said. There was no drama, no overwhelm, we just drifted. I know that now, he said. I'm telling you because I think it matters, as part of the full picture. Savannah was quiet for a long time. Junior year, she said. Yes, she looked at the wall, processing. That's when it started, she said, quietly. I think so, he said. She thought about 16-year-old Savannah at a dinner table, telling her family about a boy she liked. Glowing, undefended, and 16-year-old Sierra across the table listening and deciding. She was a child, Savannah said, not to excuse it, just as a fact. We were both children, Jackson said, but she kept choosing it, Savannah said. For 13 years, all the way up to a hotel in February. That's not a child's mistake, that's a pattern, he said again. They sat with that. I'm going to tell her I know about the lie, Savannah said, not to punish her, just because I think she needs to know that I know the full scope of it, all the way back. Do you want me there? No, she said. This one is between her and me. She called Sierra on a Sunday afternoon. December, Jackson was at a colleague's birthday dinner. The apartment was quiet. Jackson told me about junior year, Savannah said when Sierra answered. What you said to him at his locker, about Derek, about me being a lot. Silence. I was wondering when that would come up, Sierra said. That was the beginning, Savannah said. That was day one, before any of it, before anything had even started, Sierra said. You made me sound damaged before I had a chance to be anything at all to him. It still didn't work. A pause, then Sierra said no, it didn't. Savannah thought about that. Do you know why? Savannah asked. Because he actually knew you, Sierra said quietly. Not the version I was constructing, the actual you, and the actual you was you. She stopped. I couldn't compete with that, no matter what I said, because you were just you, and that was enough. Savannah felt something move in her chest, not pride, not triumph, something sadder than both. I think that's what I need you to hear, Savannah said, not as a lecture, just as a truth. You spent 13 years running a campaign against someone who was never your competition. I was never in competition with you. I was just living my life. Was quiet. The things you have, Savannah continued, the things that are genuinely yours, the intelligence, the precision, the ability to walk into any room and command it, Sierra, those are real, those are extraordinary, and you have spent so much energy trying to take what I have that you never fully used what you were given. A long silence. My therapist says something similar, Sierra said. Your therapist is right. It's easier to hear from Dr. Reeves, Sierra admitted. Coming from you, she paused. It's a lot, I know, I'm sorry, Sierra said. For the lie, for junior year, for everything it started. I know you are, Savannah said. Is that enough? Sierra asked. It's a start, Savannah said. The rest is what comes next. What you do with your life from here, not for me, for you. I'm trying, Sierra said. I know, Savannah said. I can hear it. Another pause. Can I ask you something? Sierra said. Yes. Do you think we'll ever get back to being sisters? Really? Not just the phone calls and the careful conversations. Really? Savannah looked out the window. Nashville in December, cold and lit up and alive. I think we're already becoming something, she said. Not what we were, we can't go back to that, but something that knows the full truth about each other and chooses to keep going anyway. That enough? Sierra asked. Again, it might be better, Savannah said. A pause. Okay, Sierra said, and she meant it. Okay, Savannah said. In the spring of their third year of marriage, Savannah found out she was pregnant. She found out on a Tuesday morning before her shift. A test in the apartment bathroom. 2 lines she stared at for a full 3 minutes before her brain could catch up to what her eyes were seeing. She called Jackson first. He was in a meeting. She texted, "Call me when you can." Then sent a second text, "Actually call me right now." He called within 4 minutes. She could hear from his voice that he'd stepped into a hallway. "What happened?" "Nothing bad," she said quickly. "Just I need to tell you something." A pause. "Savannah, I'm pregnant." A silence that lasted exactly 2 seconds, and then he made a sound she'd never heard him make before, low and overwhelmed and completely unguarded. The sound of a man receiving news that reaches somewhere so deep he doesn't have a prepared response for it. "Are you?" he started. "I'm sure," she said. "I took 3." He laughed, the specific laugh of someone who cannot contain what they are feeling and stops trying to. "I'm coming home," he said. "In a meeting." "I am absolutely coming home," he said. She laughed too. It felt like something opening. He came home. They sat on the couch and held each other and talked about nothing practical for a long time, just the fact of it, the enormous, beautiful fact of it. She called Marie, who screamed so loud Savannah had to hold the phone away from her ear. She called Diana, who cried immediately and then pulled herself together and asked about prenatal vitamins. She called Daniel, who went very quiet and then said, "I'm going to be a grandfather." With the weight and the wonder of someone counting up all the ways life can still surprise you even when you're older and slower and carrying a cane. She did not call Sierra that day. She waited a week. And then she called. "Have something to tell you," Savannah said. "Okay, I'm pregnant." Silence. Then Sierra said, in a voice that was careful and real and complicated and trying, "Congratulations, Savannah, that's wonderful." And it really was. And something in Sierra's voice, something underneath the careful, underneath the trying, said that she knew it was wonderful. That some part of her, the part Dr. Reeves had been excavating for 2 years, actually felt that, wanted good things for her sister, not instead of wanting things for herself, but alongside, which was how love was supposed to work. Which was how Sierra was learning, slowly, imperfectly, to make it work. And I need you to feel the full weight of where we've arrived. Savannah is pregnant. Married, whole. Jackson is present, honest, trying. Marie is exactly who she has always been. Daniel and Diana are growing older and being loved. And Sierra is learning to want things without destroying people to get them. Which is the hardest lesson any of us ever learns. Like this video if this story moved you. Please subscribe if you want more stories like this one. And comment below, tell me something. Tell me what this story taught you about love, about sisters, about the people we almost becoming the people we choose to be instead. I read every single comment, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on Sierra's personality. Here is the thing about twins. They are the first mirror anyone ever holds up to you, before you understand what a mirror is, before you have the language for reflection. Before you know that the face you're looking at is a face and not just a familiar shape. You look at them and you see yourself, or you see what you are not. For Savannah, Sierra had always been the proof that 2 people could start from the same place and become entirely different, that origin was not destiny, that who you were was, in some essential way, a choice. For Sierra, Savannah had been something more complicated, a mirror that showed her the version she could not access, the warmth she could not produce, the ease she could not manufacture. And in that mirror, she had not seen the beautiful differences between them, she had only seen what she lacked. That's the thing about jealousy. When it runs long and deep enough, it doesn't show you the truth, it shows you a distortion. A version of reality where everything good in someone else's life is a subtraction from yours, where their happiness is proof of your insufficiency, where love is a finite resource that runs out if someone else has too much of it. None of that is true, but feeling it is real, and feeling it is not the same as choosing to act on it. Sierra had felt it, and she had acted on it. And then, at a hotel at 5 a.m. with an alarm set and a plan made, she had chosen not to. That choice does not erase what came before it, but it is the beginning of who she becomes after. In November of the 3rd year, Savannah delivered a daughter, 6 pounds, 4 ounces, a full head of dark curly hair that looked exactly like Savannah's at that age, which Diana confirmed with tears in her eyes by pulling out the hospital photo she had kept for 30 years. Her name was Nora. Nora Diana Mercer. The Diana was for Jackson's mother, Vivienne's second name Diana. And for Savannah's mother too, because the name fits twice and some gifts are too good not to give more than once. Vivienne Mercer, upon hearing this, pressed her hand to her chest and could not speak for a full 30 seconds, which was, by all accounts, unprecedented. Harold Mercer shook Jackson's hand so many times that Jackson eventually just left his hand out and let it happen. Daniel held Nora for the first time with the careful, wondering attention of a man who has been given a second chance at a thing he nearly missed with his own children. He held her and did not say anything for a long time. And then he said, "Hello, Nora, I'm your grandfather, and I'm going to be here for everything." Savannah, in the hospital bed, still exhausted and overwhelmed and more in love than she had known she could be, heard that and cried. Marie was in the waiting room. She had been there for 6 hours. When Jackson came out to tell her, she stood up and held his face in her hands and said, "Is Savannah okay?" "She's perfect," he said, voice rough, eyes red. "Baby, perfect too," Marie exhaled, long and slow and total, the breath of someone who has been holding something for a very long time and has finally been given permission to put it down. "Okay," she said, "okay." She saw the baby 20 minutes later and immediately started narrating all the things she was going to teach her, beginning with how to correctly load a dishwasher and ending with exactly what kind of people to trust. Savannah said, "She's 12 hours old." "Better to start early," Marie said, without looking up from Nora. Sierra was not there. She called from DC. Jackson answered because Savannah was resting and handed her the phone. "Is she?" Sierra asked. "Good," he said. He meant it. In the uncomplicated, clean way a man means it when the person he loves most in the world is safe. "Baby, perfect." "Good," Sierra said. "And then will you tell Savannah I called and that I'm happy for her, really happy?" Jackson held the phone for a moment. "Tell her," he said. He hung up. He looked at his daughter in his arms. This tiny, perfect new person who did not yet know anything about the world except that it was warm and she was held. "Your mom's sister called," he said to Nora, who was asleep. "She's trying to be better." Nora did not respond. She was asleep, but the room felt lighter after he said it. Nora was 6 months old. She laughed at the ceiling fan. She grabbed Savannah's hair with remarkable determination. She looked at Jackson with an expression of profound personal satisfaction that he insisted was a smile and everyone else called gas. "It is absolutely a smile," Jackson said at dinner for the 3rd time that week. "It might be a smile," Savannah conceded. "It is 100% a smile. "'Kay, it's a smile." "Thank you," he said, with the dignity of a man who had won something important. Nora looked at the ceiling fan. "She agrees," Jackson said. Savannah laughed. The easy, complete laugh of a person at home in their life. Marie came for dinner on Saturdays. She had become, in the easy, unannounced way that true things happen, Nora's godmother. Nobody made a formal announcement. It was simply understood. Marie understood it. Savannah understood it. Jackson understood it. And Nora, who couldn't understand anything yet, seemed to understand it too. She always stopped fussing when Marie held her, which Marie pointed out approximately once per visit. Daniel and Diana drove up once a month. Daniel had gotten a new cane, a nicer one, dark wood with a silver handle. He walked slowly, but he walked. He sat in the kitchen and talked while Savannah cooked. He watched Nora with the particular attention of a man making the most of the time he has and knowing it and not being sad about it. Just present. Just grateful. Diana and Jackson had a running argument about the right way to season cast iron that had been going on for 2 years and showed no signs of resolution. It was, everyone agreed, the best possible argument to be having. And Sierra graduated from Howard College of Medicine in May. 3rd in her class. She matched into a psychiatry residency at a hospital in Baltimore. Psychiatry, not surgery, not internal medicine, not the high-prestige specialties she had talked about in high school. Psychiatry, where the work was sitting with people in their most broken moments and helping them figure out how to put themselves back together. Where the skill was not surgical precision or diagnostic speed, but something rarer and harder, the ability to hold someone's pain without running from it. Dr. Reeves, when Sierra told her, had simply said, "Of course you did." Sierra had chosen a specialty that required learning to do the thing she had never known how to do, to be fully present with another person's suffering, to offer something without calculating the return. Savannah, when Sierra called to tell her, was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Sierra, that's exactly right," Sierra said, and you could hear it in her voice, the thing she was still learning to accept. That she could do something not because it was strategic, but because it was true. "Yeah," Savannah said. "I'm going to be good at it," Sierra said. "I know you will," Savannah said. A pause. "Can I come visit?" When I'm settled in Baltimore, meet Nora. Savannah was quiet for a moment, not a hesitating quiet, a thinking quiet, the kind where you're weighing something real. Yes, she said, give me a month's notice. And we do it the right way, everyone home, Jackson, Marie if she agrees. And you stay in a hotel. I know, Sierra said. I wasn't going to ask for more than that. Good, Savannah said. Then yes, come meet your niece. Another pause. My niece, Sierra said, like she was holding the word, feeling the weight of it, what it meant to have one, what it meant to be allowed to. Your niece, Savannah confirmed. Kay, Sierra said. Quiet, real, Kay, Savannah said. Sierra came to Nashville on a Saturday in August. Rideshare from the hotel. No rental car. She stood at the door with a gift, a soft toy, a little stuffed elephant, and waited. Savannah opened the door. They looked at each other. Same face, same eyes, same dimple on the left cheek, different people, deeply, entirely, irreversibly different people, in all the ways that actually matter. Come in, Savannah said. Jackson was in the kitchen. He came out, nodded once. Sierra, Jackson, she said, same measure, same careful distance. It was not warm, but it was functional. And functional, sometimes, is what respect looks like before it becomes something more. Daniel and Diana were on the couch. Daniel got up slowly with his cane and looked at Sierra with the complicated love of a father who knows all the worst and truest things about his child and chooses to stay anyway. Sierra, he said. Hi, Daddy, she said. Something cracked just slightly in his face. He pulled her into his arms. She went still the way she always did when people held her, and then she didn't. For the first time in all the time Savannah had watched her sister accept an embrace, Sierra's body didn't go rigid, didn't calculate the appropriate duration, didn't manage it. She just held her father back. Savannah saw it and felt something in her chest move. Marie was in the kitchen. She came out with a glass of iced tea, set it on the coffee table near Sierra's spot, and said, "That's the only thing I'm giving you." Then went back to the kitchen. Sierra looked at the iced tea. "That's fair," she said. And then Savannah appeared from the hallway with Nora, 6 months old. Dark curly hair, wide brown eyes with little flecks of gold in them when the light hit just right, the same eyes, the same flecks. The Caldwell eyes. Sierra looked at the baby, and something happened to her face that no strategy had ever produced and no calculation had ever built. She just looked at the baby, and her face, that face that had been composed and controlled and deliberate for as long as anyone could remember, simply opened. "Hi," Sierra said to Nora, soft, almost a whisper. Nora looked at her. Barbies are strange that way. They look at you without agenda, without history, without knowing any of the story you've brought into the room with you. Nora looked at Sierra with wide, calm eyes, and then she smiled, the real kind, not the kind Jackson argued about with Savannah, the unmistakable one, wide and gummy and complete. "Can I?" Sierra started. Savannah had already closed the distance, had already placed Nora in her sister's arms. Sierra held her niece and stood very still, and for the first time in as long as either of them could remember, Sierra Caldwell did not look like she was trying to get something. She just looked like someone who had been given something and knew it and didn't know what to do with the grace of it. Savannah watched her sister hold her daughter. Jackson, from the doorway, watched Savannah watching Sierra. Marie, from the kitchen, watched all of them through the pass-through window and said nothing, because some moments know when they don't need narration. Daniel reached over and took Diana's hand. And in the apartment, on a Saturday afternoon in August, with a ceiling fan turning and sunlight coming through the blinds and a baby in someone's arms who did not yet know a single thing about the world, except that it was warm, and she was held something that had been broken for a very long time was, if not fully healed, at least beginning to scar over, the way wounds do when they are tended, when they are cleaned and covered and given time, when the people involved in them do not pick at them. When they choose, however imperfectly, however painfully, to let them close. If this story moved you, if you felt it, I want to hear from you. Please drop a comment. Tell me which moment got you. Tell me which character you were rooting for. Tell me if you think Savannah made the right call, like this video. Subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And thank you for being here from the beginning. See you in the next video.